Our first guest needs very little introduction. A worldwide best-selling author who shot to fame after the release of the first in a blockbuster series of children's books, Jeff Kinney joins us with an exciting tour coming to Charleston to help celebrate his latest installment of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, number 16, Big Shot. Jeff, so good to meet you. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
Whether you are a child or an adult, I don't think there is anyone who has not heard of Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Wow, that's so cool to hear. Especially, I'm talking to you right now from Plainville, Massachusetts, and I write these books in solitude, sometimes like at the cemetery, and then they get out there into the world, and it's so wild to me to travel, to meet people who are reading these books, to go around the world. Wow, it's mind expanding. Well,
and your books have been printed in so many different languages. They are all over the world. But this all started with an idea, with you put it online before it was ever published onto pages of a book. Maybe you can just remind us how it all got started.
It all got started from my failure to become a newspaper cartoonist. That was my big dream, to become like Charles Schulz or Bill Watterson, and I couldn't break in. So I had to figure out a way to get my cartoons published, seen somewhere. Worked on it for about 8 years and got a bite, and it's been a wild ride ever since.
So 2007 is when Diary first hit store shelves. You've since released 15 more installments. The story of your character, tell us a little bit more about why you chose to tell his story.
Greg Heffley, he's a wimpy kid. He's sort of powerless in the world, and I think that a lot of kids feel that powerlessness when they realize that their life isn't in their control. You know, parents, grown-ups kind of control their lives at every stage. So Greg is right at the edge of becoming a teenager when he's going to have more agency, but he's very put upon. The things that happen to him are funny and relatable.
Yes, and so all these installments later, number 16, Big Shot. Walk us through what this book is about.
This one is about sports, and I've been dying to do a sports book for a really long time, but I've been afraid to put a ball on the cover of a book because I thought if you have a soccer ball, a baseball, maybe some kids will say, yeah, that's not for me. So I put lots of sports on the cover. And this book is really about sports for the kid who isn't the hero, who isn't really especially sporty, and that was me as a kid. So I want kids who sit at the end of the bench to feel seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, 14 years later, you're still a #1 best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author. What is some of the response that you've received, anything that has particularly been profound or meaningful to you of people who have read your books?
Oh gosh, I've gotten all sorts of responses. You know, sometimes I'll meet a kid with autism and they tell me how important these books are to them. And I think for them it helps, the images really help to kind of find the emotion in the story. Those interactions have been very meaningful. And lately what's been really strange is that I've been meeting people who are in their young 20s who are now in their careers, who are influenced by these books, and that's really cool to see this generation go out into the world and make their mark.
Most certainly. You had some indication, though, that this is going to be a popular series because when this was first being presented online, you had some 20 million views. It was very, very popular. Did you have any reservations? Did you have any doubts that it would become just such an iconic book on bookshelves across the world?
I had some concerns because Greg Heffley, he's not a heroic character. He's not really a role model. He's sort of a messy kid. And so I wanted to make sure that kids really understood that this character is a little bit different, and maybe he's not a reliable narrator. Most of the humor in the stories really comes from Greg being a kid who is relatable. He's like a stand-up comedian who's talking about his faults on stage. And so that was my big concern. But as far as the success of the series, it's beyond my wildest imagination.
I can imagine. So Greg is a bit of a self-deprecating character. Do you think that this instills a little bit of humility within the readers after they read these books?
Yeah, I think that Greg is a self-aggrandizing character. He starts off by saying, when I'm rich and famous, one day when I'm rich and famous, I won't have time to answer people's stupid questions all day long. So whatever that is, I think that when kids read the story, or when a grown-up reads that story, that they know that this kid is going to get beaten down a little bit, but like life is going to humble him. So I think that that's where the humiliation and the humility comes from Greg's, from the way that Greg is.
Very good. Well, it's making its way from the pages once again to the screens. We're going to take a break here. I want to talk a bit about your upcoming Disney Plus movie coming out. So we're going to talk about that in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Sure.
Welcome back. We've been chatting with Jeff Kinney, author of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series, and he is joining us with a special event that's going to be taking place in bookstores all over the place, also here in Charleston. We'll get to that in a moment. But you do have something coming up on Disney Plus in the next couple of months. Your books have already made it into 4 films, so it's not like this is your first entree into this realm. But tell us what's coming up with Disney Plus.
Yeah, this is so exciting because for the first time ever, we're going to see a 3D animated version of the Wimpy Kid universe. So it really feels like page to screen, very literally. And it's been really fun. I've been very much involved. I'm a producer and I'm the writer, and I'm there for all of the, the cast recordings and everything like that. And it's so cool as a creator to be in this position to have control over how it's going to look and how it all plays out on screen. So I'm so excited. That's coming up in December.
That's wonderful. Well, you're taking number 16 on the road. You're coming to Charleston to Blue Bicycle Books on Halloween. So tell us more about how people can get a signed copy of your book.
Yeah, these are really fun events. They're drive-through events. Of course, we had to change the way that we operate in a pandemic. And, kids can come by with their families, load up the car, grandma can come, the family dog, and then we're gonna entertain you a little bit in line. Kids will be able to shoot baskets and do some sort of sporty things that are COVID safe. And then at the end of it all, I hand off the book. I think I'm doing it with like a long lacrosse stick so that we can kind of keep our social distance. But it's fun because I get to meet the kid face to face. We get to look each other in the eye. And that's important for the kid, and it's also important for me. It
most certainly is, yes. Anything coming up? You've made such a wonderful career out of Greg's character, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Do you see yourself going into any other kind of stories, whether it's for older teens, adults?
Yeah, I think that the Wimpy Kid universe is a big universe because it's the universe of childhood. Yeah. And there's so much I can do within that universe because we have these shared experiences, and kids all over the world are living similar childhoods. So I don't think that I will outgrow that universe.
No, definitely not. But we're so happy that you haven't, and we cannot wait to read this next edition, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, number 16, Big Shot. I'm talking to a big shot. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. You're so kind. I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. We'll be right back.